Hey everyone, welcome back to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's Friday, May 27th, and with Friday, it means not Sunday Fun Day, but it's close enough. When we're looking at the slate, there's a ton of action on every site. Fantasy Draft, our sponsor, they got their $15,000 home run on Friday, so make sure you guys check that out. It's only a $25 buy-in, and you're only getting a 15 entry max. So you're not playing against guys that have 200 entries, 150 entries. You're not playing, it's a pretty level playing field. Pays out 171 spots out of 681. So it's really solid payouts. Not going to see people have a ton of the entries. So it's just a great tournament. So if you're going to check them out, make sure you support us here at Roto Grinders using promo code GRINDERS. That way you get incentives for a year over at Roto Grinders for Fantasy Draft. And you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. Hoop had to cancel on me today, so last minute here, the Siege back again, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always good to be to do the podcast.
No, today it's good to just be appreciative of you coming on last minute. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I really didn't want to watch the end of that Warriors Thunder game, anyways.
Who's leading? I haven't turned on any basketball.
Warriors have been it's been a tight game the whole way. Warriors are up a couple when I left the living room.
I wanted to go 7 just so the Cavs can get a couple of days of rest.
The Cavs, boy, I don't know.
Yeah, I've never been a LeBron fan, and before we'll talk about the slate here in a second. Never been a LeBron fan, but it took balls to go back to Cleveland, did it not?
Yeah, it definitely did. I just. Man, the way the Thunder are playing right now, I'd love to see them win a title.
It'd be a great series. Whoever comes out of the West and Cleveland, it's going to be a good series. So everybody's here for us to talk about this 14-game slate. It's a great slate. You pretty much were talking about it before we jumped on. We go from 2 slates with not a lot of pitching options to just a ton of pitchers, so we have a ton to talk about. We're going to start it off with St. Louis and Washington, and here's one of them right here, Max Scherzer and Jaime Garcia at Washington. Scherzer, ton of upside here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of a little worried about the Cardinals bats, and they kind of didn't really show up today. And Scherzer's been pitching great. And this is a good spot. No Carpenter for tonight. He's on paternity leave for the next day. So looking good for Scherzer. Going to get a slightly watered down lineup, and he's not the most expensive pitcher on FanDuel. He is on Fantasy Draft, but 25-2, not ridiculous of a price tag, and a guy that I'm going to fit into my cash teams.
Yeah, and you got to mention that Matt Adams, he left with some back stiffness. He's one of the hottest bats for the Cardinals. So let's talk about this real quick. How much of a difference does Matt Carpenter make to this order? He sets the table for this team, and without him in the lineup, I feel like it's a huge deal.
Yeah, it is absolutely a huge deal. He's the best hitter on this team. He's on base. He's a doubles threat. He can steal a bag, just really gets the whole lineup going. And without him, there really isn't an obvious leadoff guy to replace him. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they try Diaz in the leadoff spot tomorrow. It seems weird to do it against a guy like Scherzer, but he's been their best hitter, and maybe he can kind of just get things started for them, but I don't see it happening.
Like we talked about on the Thursday podcast with Joe Ross, he excels against righties. St. Louis has a bunch of righties. Scherzer's the same way. He excels against righties. He has a 37% strikeout rate to right-handed bats dating back to last season. Love his upside here. Jaime Garcia, couple good starts this season, but if we look at his last 2, 15 hits and 7 1/3 innings.
Yeah, that's not very good, and you're going up against a Nationals team that struggled a little bit against Matt, had his dominant stuff, but this team was number 1 in every stat against lefties heading into that game, and this is not the spot to play Jaime, and it's probably the spot to stack against him.
Yeah, if we're going to stack against him, who do you take in here for the Nationals?
I'm pretty interested in just about everyone who cracks the lineup. Daniel Murphy, lefty on lefty, he's going to be underpriced industry-wide, and he's been doing just fine against left-handed bats this year. Pitchers. 7,200 on draft. I really like that price for him. Rendon at 7,800, I think, is a steal. And then Jason Worth at 7,800 is also a pretty good play.
Yeah, Rendon, I love him here in this game. I feel like he's finally healthy. He's coming back to what we've seen a couple years ago. like Bryce Harper a lot for tournaments. Lefty-lefty matchup. Harper hit that home run about 800 feet today. That's always a good sign. Still doesn't look great at the plate, but for like his price tag on FanDuel, 3,800 in a lefty-lefty matchup, I just don't see a lot of people playing him.
Yeah, and Jaime Garcia in his career has been a reverse splits guy too. So I really – the matchup isn't as hot as Leak. Yesterday I was talking about how Leak likes to attack the zone low, and he missed one to Bryce Harper. But Jaime's a little more left and right, so the matchup isn't quite as good, but certainly at that price tag, he's certainly in play.
Scherzer, when he does struggle, it's usually with the long ball. I know going into his last start, he was leading the majors in home runs. I didn't look and see if it's still true or not. But if we're going to take some bats here, who do you have here for the Cardinals? One-off plays? I don't think we stack against Scherzer, do we?
No. I mean, the prices on Fantasy Draft are awesome. Like, you can actually play guys at these prices. Like, 5,100 for Brandon Moss. You could talk me into that as a one-off play. It's obviously not something I'm wild about, but I'm sure he's a lot better of a caliber player than people at that price range.
What's your thoughts on Piscotty? He's only 6,300, and the other one that I have written down here is Grichuk. He's 5,200 over on draft. These guys, I feel like one-off plays, home run upside plays.
Grichuk's hot and a reverse split guy, so I definitely would have more interest in Grichuk than Piscotty. But I mean, they're both one-off, as good as you can get for a one-off play against Scherzer, which isn't really all that good on a 14-game slate.
Boston at Toronto, Aaron Sanchez, Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly came back and looked really good in that start against Cleveland. Do we expect that to continue?
Maybe.
That's fair. I honestly don't. It was a good start, and he pitched really well in that game. Just nothing suggests that Joe Kelly is going to come out and dominate here.
What if he was just hurt last year?
I hope that's the case. Like, I hope that we see Joe Kelly of 2 years ago. I would love that.
I mean, last year in his final 7 starts, he allowed no more than 3 earned runs in any of those starts.
Yeah, those are fair points. My biggest concern with him, especially in this start, is his hard contact rate and WOBA to righties. Like, we know that Joe Kelly struggles with righties, and when we're looking at Toronto, every single one of their power bats is on the right side outside of Saunders.
Yeah, this isn't the spot to use Joe Kelly, but this is the spot to watch Joe Kelly and see how his control looks and stuff like that. Too big of a slate to just go with him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he throws a decent game today.
No, I feel like that's great points. Watching players, seeing if he is, pitching better, and it's just one of those things where even coming off the DL, they let him pitch a little deeper in that game than I thought he was going to. Granted, he did have I think no-hitter going for a lot part of that game. So, but I just don't know if this is the spot. And Aaron Sanchez gets a pretty hot Red Sox offense. I don't think this is the spot that we really want to target him either.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be probably off of the Red Sox more than most in this spot against Sanchez because, again, he's a guy that's really good against righties and bad against lefties, and there's really only a couple lefties in the Red Sox lineup that I want any part of.
I'm sure you want parts of David Ortiz, though.
Oh, that's the one that I mean, we joked yesterday that he had so many extra base hits it was going to stop at some point, and he just matched a couple more, just like daring you to be like, go ahead, fade me.
He was the only bright spot of the whole team for the Red Sox in that game. He
has 6 doubles in his last 5 games. I mean, that is just insane.
I like that FanDuel priced him up a little bit. We've seen him priced down for so long. I still think he is in play. But Fantasy Draft lowered his price. He was $10K on Thursday, and he's $96 today.
I think Ortiz makes for a great one-off play. I'm not in love with the Red Sox offense. This game does have a total of 9, but I can just kind of see like the Bradley streak ended today, and props to John Farrell, side tangent, for using Mookie Betts as a pitch hitter there. That's going to get a lot of love in your clubhouse, trying to get Jackie one more at bat in a game that was out of hand.
Heck yeah, man. Like, Mookie, you're going to get the day off. This game is 8-2 and 2 outs, first and second, Bradley on deck. Mookie, you need to go out there and get on base. Give this guy one more chance to extend his streak.
Yeah, I just, he probably felt bad about not giving him the chance. But, like, that's the thing that can win you a clubhouse.
Yeah.
But I've been off of Travis Shaw. He hasn't hit anything that's not been a fastball now for a week and a half. And I just don't see Sanchez throwing him fastballs. Jackie Bradley, I'm sure everyone in the world will be off of him now. 4,400 will make it a great tournament play as well. Him and Ortiz, only Red Sox I got interested.
One more I'm going to throw at you real quick. Xander Bogaerts is extremely hot. I think he now has the longest hit streak in baseball because he was behind Bradley. One-off tournament play, shortstop limited. Everybody's going to have Trevor Story against Matt Cain at Coors Field. Just for, tournament game theory alone, Xander's more than Story here. He's going to be, less than 10% owned?
Oh, you got Brandon Crawford underpriced in Coors too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Under 5.
Yeah, I think
Milwaukee against Cincinnati with VR, it might be under 3.
I think that he's an interesting tournament play.
I'm with you at that. I hadn't looked at shortstop that in depth, but I'm looking at it now. I don't see how you would play Xander unless you're trying to be contrarian.
Toronto, very frustrating stack this season. Just we can't get them right. They faced CC Sabathia and didn't do hardly anything against him. You like Joe Kelly, man. It's hard to say don't play Blue Jays, but I think I'm going to stack them on a tournament team, and that's it.
I'm with you. Yeah, I say I like Joe Kelly in the terms of I don't know if I can just.
No, I know what
Toronto
you're saying.
Stacks.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I mean, it's really hard to be like, I don't want to get called a Joe Kelly homer.
Yeah.
But it's really tough to play these Toronto guys right now. They're just – CC Sabathia is starting to turn into Kobe Lewis a little bit, where you just stack against him every time. He just does just enough to drive you nuts. If I was going to play a contrarian guy, Jimmy Paredes, 2.5K, will get the start against Joe Kelly. I think that's a bit interesting.
Yeah, 6K over on Fantasy Draft. Like that play. Los Angeles Dodgers against New York Mets. This has all the buzz surrounding it in the world here. Julio Urias against Jacob deGrom. This kid, lefty, massive amounts of talent, one of the highest prospects in baseball, is getting his major league start here. You have to have interest, right?
On FanDuel, you have to have interest.
Oh, yeah. Just
that
way
price,
too cheap.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with him, though. This is really just going to be, as the day goes on, how high owned is he going to be? If he starts becoming super chalky, boy, is there all sorts of merit in fading him. But if he kind of just stays under the radar and people aren't talking about him a ton, then yes, because he still has a tough matchup against deGrom. It's not like he's facing Bartolo or anything like that.
Yeah, Mets are striking out 27% of the time against left-handed pitching this season. Like, everything's setting up for him to have a good game. And everybody knows I'm a huge Jacob deGrom fan, and I don't think I can play him in cash here as much as I want to. I do like him for tournaments. The Dodgers bats are just so ice cold right now.
Yeah, no, he makes for a really good tournament play. I think Scherzer is just in a way better spot for cash, but
I agree.
He definitely is a tournament option. And the thing is that FanDuel price is so interesting because on FanDuel the win is so important, but it's going to be really tough to get the win against deGrom. I'm just imagining deGrom's a solid minus 120 favorite. This is a really tough spot. I don't know what to do with him. And I don't know how to recommend them, to be honest. I think on two starting pitcher sites, I have more interest where the win doesn't mean as much. But
yeah,
boy, that FanDuel price, they did a really good job with him, I think.
Yeah, if he was 3K, he'd be 80% owned. When we get those 3K call-ups, they're already in, 3K pitchers, one of my faves. Yeah, it's a tough game. I really don't want a ton of bats here, to be honest. Where are we going to target, the young pitcher? Cespedes much better against righties. David Wright, maybe one-off. I don't know. I just don't know if I can do it.
The David Wright price on FanDuel, I think, is fair. He's homered in 2 straight games. 3K, I can get on board with that, but that's really about my interest level.
Yeah, any Dodgers that you want here against deGrom?
I mean, Jock Jams, what's his price? I mean, his price on FanDuel's probably a tad too much. Fantasy drafts 7,200. I could get behind some Jock Jams as a one-off.
All right, so I'm a big DeGrom fan, but Corey Seager's only 6,900 on draft for this slate. That's way too cheap.
Wow.
Yeah, Gonzalez 66. He's been ice cold, but Corey Seager is one of the hottest hitters in baseball. I can get behind that price tag for him.
Yeah, that's definitely a tournament play. It's just so tough on draft. I try to avoid middle infielders. I hate when they give me good prices like this on them because I feel like if I'm not playing 3 first basemen or 3 third basemen, I'm doing it wrong.
Baltimore at Cleveland, Mike Wright and Trevor Bauer. This is a game we could target some hitters in. I would say I don't think you're on either one of these pitchers.
No, but I think there's some merit to Trevor Bauer in tournaments if you want to get cute. The Orioles struck out 45 times and counting in that series in Houston. And Bauer, we know, at least has some K upside. So if you wanted to get cute in a tournament, I'd understand it, just given how cold the Baltimore bats have been.
Yeah, and they're still going to be on the road here at Cleveland. So I don't hate it. I don't know. I don't know if I can play him here on a 14-game slate. I was all over McCullers on a 5-game slate that turned into a 4-game slate. Big difference here when we add 10 games, I think. I just don't know if I can do it.
The price is just so tempting because it's $14K on draft, and it's just you look at the pitchers around him, and they're just all a lot less talented. It's like Mike Fiers and Mike Wright and Sean Manaea, and you're like, well, Bauer has K upside, and Baltimore's cold. I definitely can see the merit in a tournament.
Let's talk bats here. We'll start with Baltimore. You like Bauer for tournaments as a sleeper play, but I feel like you're going to like some of these bats too.
Not really.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay.
They were really cold in Houston. I'm going to have to see it. When you strike out, I think they were closing in on 50 times in a series. That is just nuts.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to target some of the lefties here. Chris Davis, Trumbo, not a lefty, but I do like Trumbo. And then one of the sneaky plays that I like here is Alvarez. I feel like he's in a good spot. He's going to be cheap across the industry. So I don't mind those 3 guys. Machado, shortstop, is going to be packed today. So if you want, Machado on a site like FanDuel, I feel like this is going to be a site or a day where he'll be under owned. So I don't hate him for a tournament play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Orioles have now just struck out for the 50th time this season for this series in a 3-game set. I definitely think you have to consider Bauer in tournaments.
Mike Wright, he's a guy that really struggles with lefties. When we're looking at his numbers, it's a small sample size, but everything suggests that he is really bad against lefties. They got some lefties here for Cleveland. I think they're a really interesting stack here.
Yeah, I like Cleveland a lot in this spot. Lindor, Kipnis, I think, is really underpriced on fantasy draft at 9,200. Santana, 8,700, where you're not limited by 1 first baseman. I think that's a great play. Goodness, there's probably more. I just can't find them. Chisenhall at 6K if you need a punt. I like that as well.
I would actually consider Carlos Santana for cash games on just about every site. So I feel like he's one of the strongest plays on the day, and he gets a massive bump if he's in the leadoff spot here.
Yeah, especially on fantasy draft where you can play multiple first basemen. I think you have to be considering, if not rostering him, in your cash games.
Yankees at Tampa taking on the Rays. Tanaka against Chris Archer. Want to talk about 2 guys with a ton of upside. Both of these guys are definitely guys you want to look at in tournaments, correct?
Yeah, boy, look at that Chris Archer price, though. How many times have we done this DK algorithm? The DK algorithm is basically 100 for 100 on these. He's this price, they're just daring me to play him.
Oh, I'm going to play him. You're talking about on draft, right? 15-3?
Yeah, and on DraftKings, he's priced lower than Pat Dean, for goodness sake.
Oh my, $7,900. Only $300 more than your heirs.
Yeah, they are really daring you to play them, and the Yankees bats have been so cold. I might walk into this one.
Oh, I'm gonna walk into it. Like, how can you pass on that upside? Like,
you can't.
He has 30-point upside.
Nah, you can't pass on it at all.
Like, pulling up his game log, 25, 36, 26, 22. Like, he has the upside to get to 25.
Yeah, and it's 7,900. That would just be amazing. And it's not like the Yankees are coming in here. The Bronx Bombers are no more.
Yeah, Tanaka, another guy that I like here in this matchup. The Rays can hit left-handed pitching. They struggle a little bit more against right-handed pitching. They do strike out quite a bit. And, as bad as this sounds, Kiermaier does so much damage in that 7-8 spot. With him on the DL, I feel like it really helps Tanaka.
My problem with Tanaka on these large slates is he's never going to be the best option. He's never going to be, like, the best guy. And that's why I always have trouble rostering him in tournaments. Like, is he going to be a solid bet for a top 5? Yeah, but to win a tournament, top 5 or top 6 might not be good enough. So for me, I just never really rostered the guy.
Yep, and that's why I love him for tournaments. Like, I love his ownership. Will he put up 60? Probably not. Is there a good chance that he has 50-point upside in this matchup against the Rays at Tampa? I feel like there's good upside for 50.
Wow. Flaming Inferno hot take right there. For a guy that hasn't cracked 30 on the season to say he's got 50-point upside, I mean, Tampa is bad, and they did strike out 10 or 11 times to Michael Fulmer, but boy, oh boy.
30 on what site? I'm talking about on FanDuel.
Oh, I thought you meant DraftKings, and I was like, what?
No, come on. Yeah, no, FanDuel, 50 plus points.
Oh, that's a little – all right, that I could say.
Okay, yeah, come on. I'm not going to say he's going to put up 50 on.
I thought you were using the sponsor's pricing. I didn't know.
Yeah, well, fantasy draft, he's 20,000. There's probably a few options that I would use more than him there, but I still think he's in play.
Yeah, I see it. I just won't be going there on such a large slate.
Who do you like here for the Rays then?
Nobody.
Exactly.
This is a spot where Tanaka is a better real life pitcher than he is a fantasy pitcher.
No, I don't disagree with that. I definitely agree with that. There's nobody that scares me outside of Corey Dickerson. Like, price tag is $2,700 on FanDuel. Like, that's just too cheap for him, right?
Yeah, you would think so.
I mean, he's $6K on Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, jeez, that's a. You know who's hot? Hits in 5.
No. Don't even mention him. Like, I'll hit stop broadcast.
I can't mention him?
No. Logan Morrison cannot be mentioned on this podcast.
I mean, you said the name. I was just going to say there's a guy that's a lefty going to bat second that is 6,500 and is infield, outfield eligible. I was going to make them look for the name themselves, but
no, you go right ahead and play him. He is on El Fuego right now, but no. He's going to get popped for steroids next week. Like, he had 0 RBIs in the first 32 games, 33 games.
May 17th was his first RBI, but
now he has 10.
Yeah, he regression.
No, yeah, the regression's coming for sure. He's gonna start.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna have 0 RBIs the whole year.
He's gonna start stinking up the place again.
After he hits a home run off Tanaka, just to really rub it in.
Oh, probably. And I'll get a million tweets, and I'll still. It's like the Brandon Phillips effect. Like, whatever.
Brandon Phillips effect.
Yeah, like I thought
that was so annoying.
Oh, so yeah, when we're looking at Archer here, is there any bats that you want to take against him?
No.
No love for Carlos Beltran, one-off play?
If he's DHing, yes. If he's in the outfield, no.
Fair points.
A lot of that hot streak was just he wasn't. I mean, you could talk me into Ellsbury or Gardner stolen base upside, but on a large slate, I really don't look for steals. I'm looking for home runs.
Teixeira, are we done with him?
I'm done. I'd rather play He Who Shall Not Be Named over him.
I honestly think I would too. That's a fair point there, CJ. I would definitely play Morrison over Teixeira.
I think we should move on. I think we've gotten all the details of this game in now, right?
Miami at Atlanta, Williams Perez against Adam Conley. I have a lot of interest here for Adam Conley. I want to get your thoughts.
I meant to look up Conley before we started. I believe he's actually a reverse splits lefty, which is fine if the Braves play out all their righties. But today they had a spot to play all their lefties, and they didn't. So I wonder if they're starting to go with a more balanced lineup approach, and I'll have less interest than I would have if they just stacked all righties.
Braves lead the league in every bad category against lefties. Lowest WOBA, lowest WRC plus. They're striking out 23% of the time. Lowest ISO. If you want to take a shot on Conley, I'm definitely for it here, especially on a two-pitcher site.
Yeah, absolutely. And I pulled up his careers numbers, and he's absolutely a huge reverse splits guy. 387 WOBA allowed against lefties, 297 to righties.
Yep. Yeah, I got to see his first start. He dominated the Reds in his first start. Love his price tag here on draft, $15K in a matchup that he should excel in. I feel like we're going to see, Castro, Denar, Dano, just all the same righties here. I think that we're going to see a lot of righties, and I think Conley can really excel in this matchup.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But who becomes the greatest one-off play in the history of one-off
we were going to talk about Freeman. Don't you worry.
All right, yeah.
And you want to talk about a sneaky stack on a day that we have Coors, we have a Rogers Center game, the Marlins at Atlanta. That's sneaky, right?
Against Williams Perez, yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of hoping Stanton's out of the lineup one more time because any attention that would be paid to this game will just go away. And Ozuna is so hot right now.
Yep, and my first of many, first of three guys you want to look at over on draft for cash games here is actually going to come from this game, and it's Derek Dietrich. He's $6,600 on draft. That's just too cheap for him. Love this matchup for him. I'm going to play him a lot.
I think I would rather play Freddie Freeman in cash.
Well, that's all you, man.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but this is a guy that I didn't check his box score today. Oh, all right, he's shown a little more life last couple games. I guess I can see it.
Dietrich?
Yeah,
he had a double off Smiley today.
Yeah, he actually did 2 hits against the lefty. All right, I can get on board with Dietrich, but I do love Freddie Freeman at 6,400.
We have to like Justin Bohr here too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's in a good spot as well. All the Braves lefties are going to really intrigue me at these price points. Nick Parkakis at 5,700, I'll have interest in as well.
Yeah, so you're on the Braves side for some lefty tournament plays. I'm loving the Marlins stack. Sneaky game, man. Sneaky game. I do like Freeman. I feel like he's an excellent one-off tournament play. I agree with you on Ozuna. If you're going to stack them, look at like a Ozuna, Bohr, Dietrich, Prado kind of stack. I like that stack.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that.
And, Real Muto, he's been playing a ton. He actually DH'd. So when you're looking at the box scores, don't matter that he's been playing a bunch of games. He actually DH'd in the game on Thursday, so he could be back behind the plate. And I don't hate him here as well.
No, absolutely not. I was glad to see they DH'd him. I thought that was a really smart move by Don Mattingly.
Yeah, keep him in the lineup. Keep him going at the plate. Pittsburgh at Texas. Another game that I like a lot here. Cole Hamels, Jonathan Neese. 2 lefties facing off in Texas. It's starting to get hot in Texas. Like this matchup here for a lot of bats. Thoughts on Cole Hamels?
I was just about to say I think Pittsburgh stack is going to be the under-owned stack of the day.
Yep. I definitely agree. Name recognition. They're going to see Cole Hamels. It's hot. I think this game opened at 8.5.
It's at 9 already.
Yeah, so when I wrote it down a couple hours ago, it's already jumped back up to 9. So we might look at different sites as well. But for the most part, it's already saying that there's going to be runs scored here. You have to like this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of attention is going to be paid to Coors, and for good reason. But I definitely think this game is going to be a good spot for runs.
Cole Hamels, he's a good pitcher. There's nothing really bad that we can say about Cole Hamels. You're not going to pay 10-6 against Pittsburgh at Texas for him on a 14-game slate.
No, absolutely not. But I do think the pricing on Fantasy Draft is like at least tempting enough. 18-3, like, all right, I'm getting a little bit of a discount for the tough matchup in ballpark. Not something I'm saying I'd do it, but I think the price is fair for you to at least consider it.
Yeah, when you're looking at, we already mentioned Chris Archer over on draft being cheap. You're looking at who's around him. Robbie Ray against San Diego and Jacob deGrom against the Dodgers. You have to pay up a little bit more for it. There's definitely upside at his price tag there. I'm not going to do it. I want bats from this game. I'll let you start it here. Who do you like for Pittsburgh?
All the right-handed bats. Junho, Freeze, Harrison, Sean Rodriguez, if he gets in the lineup at 4,800, is just that's too cheap for him against a lefty. I have interest there. And then, of course, your standard Marte McCutchen.
Yeah, Marte McCutchen, the last one's mentioned well, man, McCutchen only 8K on draft here is just too cheap for him in this matchup. Love him. You mentioned a couple guys that I like, Jordy Mercer and Kong. Both these guys, 6K. Love Kong in this game.
Yeah, I could definitely see a couple of these Pittsburgh righties making some cash teams. They're all too cheap.
Yeah, almost like he was the fourth man for me was Kong. I like him a lot. Harrison in the lineup, I would like him too at 6,400. Like all these righties. Now looking at the other side of things, Jonathan Neese. Definitely a guy that we can target here on this slate. Who are you going to target him with here from Texas?
Rua, 6,600, normally bats 5th or 6th against the lefties. And the guy I was going to say is Nomar Mazara, but I'm not paying 8,100 for him against the lefty. I know he's been really good, but on this slate where there's a lot of other value, I can't pay that kind of price for him. So it might just be Rua for me, to be honest.
I like Mazara. I know you don't like his price tag. He has home runs in 3 or 4. 3 of his last 4, and one of those actually came off a lefty and Hector Santiago. So Santiago, I feel like, is a better pitcher than Neese, and I don't see a lot of people taking the lefty-lefty matchup. Would I play him in cash? No, I think he's an excellent tournament play, though.
Yeah, I don't mind that. If you're building a Texas stack, I certainly would include him.
I'm kind of with you here. I want exposure to Texas, but, outside of Beltre, he's always a guy you can look at against a lefty. I like the Rue call. It's tough. Ian Desmond, another guy I think we can throw out there if you're building a Texas stack.
Yeah, but I certainly am not playing him off as a one-off at that kind of price tag.
Cincinnati at Milwaukee. When you're talking pitchers on this slate, we're talking a lot of hitters here in this game. Zach Davies and John Lamb. You have no interest in these guys, right?
No.
All right. Let you start it off. Who do you like here for the Reds?
Billy Hamilton. Hopefully he gets near the top of the order, batting 2nd, but even batting 7th, somewhere where he can steal bags. Jonathan Lucroy, not the best defensive catcher out there. Zach Davies, not the fastest guy to the plate. I know he's been a tad cold, but the stolen base upside is always nice to have, and Billy Hamilton at 7,200 provides that.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Votto at only 8K here in this matchup? Great ballpark.
Play him in your cash games?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Jay Bruce is the tournament play. I don't know if I would ever recommend him for cash, but I love his tournament upside here. Adam Duvall is one of my favorite plays from this game. Everybody stays away from him righty-righty matchups, but this guy's mashing righties this year, and he's shown a ton of power. I don't know if it's just something we've seen this year, but a lot of power from Adam Duvall.
Absolutely, and another righty I like in this game a lot. We talked about how shortstop's loaded. Another guy that might go underlooked is Zach Cozart, batting 306 in the leadoff spot, shown some pop with 5 homers on the year already, and he's getting a solid park. Not a bump, but it's a solid park to hit when the roof's closed in Milwaukee.
Ryan Braun against a lefty at Milwaukee. How interested are you there?
Yeah, I've got to make sure that he got pulled today after the rain delay. I assume it was for precautionary reasons, and that's what just came out. So if he's in the lineup, I guess I wouldn't be too worried about it.
Didn't shock me that he got pulled. I know it sucked for you. I know you had some exposure to him, but you almost had to think, after an hour and a half rain delay, your best player that's already dealing with injuries this year, you almost had to expect him to come out. Jonathan VR in the leadoff spot. We already talked about some shortstops. I feel like he's another great option here.
Yeah, absolutely. The Brewers didn't disappoint me today against the Chalk, and I think against John Lamb, I'll have some exposure to him as well.
I'm going to have a lot of interest in Scooter Gennett if he's in the second spot. Not a guy that we really look at against lefties, but John Lamb, small sample size, only 15 innings or so, but he's given up a lot of home runs to left-handed bats in that 15 innings.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the Scooter price tag. 2.6 on FanDuel. Yeah, I definitely could get behind that if he's batting second.
Yeah, if he's in that 2 spot, lefty-lefty matchup, nobody's going to be on him, and he's only 4,800 on draft. Excellent tournament play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's a solid punt option.
Chicago White Sox, Kansas City. This game was the game that actually got postponed on Thursday. We're going to see the same type of matchup. We talked about these guys already. We really don't have a lot of interest in these guys. We liked Jose Abreu a lot. We felt like Frazier had some upside, and Garcia as a tournament one-off kind of sneaky play. Nothing really changed your mind on those guys, right?
No, but you know what's going to happen? We're going to get our boy at a lot lower ownership tomorrow.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, on the podcast yesterday, we had talked about Jared Dyson, and I sold you on Jared Dyson, and then I wrote him up in my Roto World article. I said, nobody plays 9-hitters, nobody plays Royals, and nobody's going to play a 9-hitter from the Royals. And then for some reason, we did the podcast, and I didn't really look at BVP, and then I pulled up BVP, and he's like 8 for 9 off of Miguel Gonzalez.
Yeah, and that's when I threw him on the Roto Grinders show as like a play, and then that game was destined to get washed out. So, but that's okay. We're going to get him at lower ownership today. Big slate, a lot more upside for us. Going right back to that well.
Yeah, and his price tag went down on draft to $6K.
Yes, I love it.
I almost put him in as one of the guys that I wanted for cash, but I actually had another guy from this game, and that's where my second play is going to come from, that I just feel like is a really safe cash option. I actually had him yesterday as the same play, and it's Eric Hosmer. Only 6,800 on draft. Just too cheap for a guy that is just, multi-hits almost every night.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they were priced to face a different pitcher, which is always one of those things I like to target in DFS. When there's the overnight pitching change after the prices are released, you're going to get value, and it's quite clear that there's a lot of value here on Kansas City tonight.
Kansas City stack, one of my favorite stacks on the slate. I just don't see anybody playing them. I'm going to do quite a bit of the wraparound stacks. I just like this. And on draft where you can stack 6 players, I really like it.
Yeah, I think this is a really good call for a tournament. If it's a team everyone was on tonight in the short slate and on the big slate tomorrow, they're just going to be forgotten about.
San Francisco at Colorado. And it's the same thing we said yesterday with Kansas City. It's Kane, it's Hosmer, it's Dyson, it's Perez. It's the same usual suspects. Don't have to get into it too much. Giants at Colorado. The day has come, CJ. The day has come. Matt Cain at Coors Field. Like, who is not in play in this game?
The pitchers.
That's very fair. Yeah, man, Matt Cain. We continue to say every time that he gets the start how much he just continues to regress as he gets older. The price is not as high as I wanted to see for Coors here. It's really easy, and I'm not going to steal your thunder. Go ahead and say it, CJ.
If you don't play Carlos Gonzalez in your cash games on FanDuel, you're just going to lose. I don't want to steal Dan's line, but I'm pretty confident Dan's going to say the same thing tomorrow on Dan's podcast. If you don't listen to that, you should listen to it, and I suspect you'll hear something along those lines tomorrow when he gets to this game.
Yeah, even on draft, he's only 8,800. We mentioned him on the podcast yesterday. I said he was starting to hit everything hard, line drives, and it turned into a home run against our boy Clay Stinkholz. Looking at this game, yeah, we don't want any of the pitchers. My favorite tournament play on draft is Brandon Crawford. 10-5 for Brandon Crawford. Nobody's going to play him at that price.
That's what I was just going to say.
Well,
I got to come up with something new to say. I couldn't agree more. I love that play for tournaments. I love Brandon Crawford. He's been mashing the ball everywhere hard lately, and I definitely love that play. And I love to see him priced up, too, because no one's going to play him at that price. I couldn't agree more.
Is there anybody?
Buster Posey's a fine option, 10-2. You're paying up for solid catching production. I think the Giants are going to go a bit overlooked in this game because people are going to think that Chatwood's the better pitcher, and he is, and the Rockies are cheaper against Kane. So the Giants might be a tad sneaky here.
Matt Duffy, one of my favorite plays. He comes in with hits in 6 straight, 2 of those multi-hits in the last 3 games. He's kind of way too cheap on FanDuel at 3,300. When you're stacking this game, I think a lot of people play Arenado at third base. I think Duffy has some good upside here.
Yeah, absolutely. Duffy's always a good spot.
Yeah, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this game. If they're in the lineup, they're in play here. Try to pay attention, make sure if we get any of these cheap guys, Ben Paulus and any of these guys cheap in the lineup and they get decent lineup spots, those are always guys to look at when you have a Coors Field game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, don't be afraid to fade Coors. This isn't one of the higher totals we've seen in Coors, especially if you don't want to – the Rockies are going to be really chalky at these prices.
Moving on, and we get another great ballpark here. We get San Diego at Arizona. We get Chase Field with two lefties on the hill, Robbie Ray and Christian Fedrick. You don't have any interest in these guys, right?
No.
You wanted to say Robbie Ray. I know you did.
I really did.
I feel like if he was cheaper on draft on a two-pitcher site, I want to pull up his price on DraftKings. If he was cheaper, if he was under Chris Archer, I would play him.
Yeah, but that's also why he's just going to be super low owned. He's at a weird price tag where just no one's going to roster him. And the Padres are average against lefties, but they still K a ton. I watched that St. Louis start too. It was just really one bad inning that he just walked and his pitch count went through the roof. I kind of want to throw it out, but
Robbie Ray, a guy that limits home runs, has a low home run per 9 to lefties and righties. It's under 1.0. I think that definitely stands out. My biggest issue with Robbie Ray, he's going to see a lot of righties here, and dating back to last year, his whip is 1.49 to righties. That worries me a ton.
Yeah, I really can't really recommend him. I want to, but the walk rate is just too high to really recommend him with any real confidence.
Yeah, that's the problem, is the confidence in him. His hard contact rate in that span to righties is 38.8%. He's going to see a ton of righties here. Interested to see if Will Myers is back in the lineup. They say it's not injury related, and he's missed a couple games now, so I just don't know. I think it's the forearm. So there's why they're saying it's not injury. What else could it be?
It's the forearm. I think they're just trying to give him a couple days off.
But he's cheap. On FanDuel, he's only $3,100. You get a discount on him, and you get a discount on Matt Kemp and Melvin Upton Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last time I recommended this guy against the lefty, he got you a nice 12.2 points for the minimum. Adam Rosales against a lefty in a hitter's park.
I wasn't going to do it because I knew you were going to talk about him.
They were so scared to face him. They walked him 3 times.
4K over on Fantasy Draft. CJ, I know you're going to play him in cash.
No.
Yes, you are.
No way. No.
4K.
There's just so many value options on this slate. I'm not going to play him in cash. Okay. I will admit, though, he was in my cash time. The last time I recommended him, he was in my cash lineup till the very last minute, and then I yanked him out.
So when you're looking at this slate, it's always interesting to try to find low-owned options in a 14-game slate. Derek Norris, 6K on draft. Catchers are never played on draft. Nobody ever plays catchers. I love him here for a tournament.
Yeah, this is a guy who's been actually hitting the ball really hard. The Giants broadcast kept bringing it up that he was just getting massively unlucky. He was hitting rockets right at people. Those are the type of guys I want to target, especially against a lefty in a hitter's ballpark.
Derek Norris on FanDuel, only 2,200. He's definitely a guy you can look at for cash games, in my opinion.
Yeah, if he's batting the top 6, I think he's in consideration for cash. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's been working with Mark McGwire. Like, you got to, consider those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, we mock about it, but when are we going to give Barry Bonds some credit for what he's done with the Marlins offense?
What he's done with Ozuna, like Ozuna was using Bonds bats the other day. Like, they're doing some things there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's been a really good addition to that team. I mean, they've been hitting the ball really well all year.
Well, if you don't want to play Derek Norris, you can always look at Wellington Castillo, only 2,900 on FanDuel. Probably who I'm going to end up with in cash games, over a 300 ISO dating back to 2014 against lefties.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about the Arizona stack for a couple of days now. It feels like I'm on repeat, but again, it's another really good spot for them, and they're going to go under-owned just because of how much attention Coors always takes.
Is Goldschmidt just having a bad season? Batting average is down to 240, only 8 home runs here for him. It's going to come up, right?
I can't say I've actually taken an in-depth look at Paul Goldschmidt. I just chalked it up to a bad couple months, but I guess at this point it's probably worth looking and making sure that there's no advanced stat problems with him. But I'm just going to assume it's just been some poor luck. Yeah, his BAP is way down off his career averages. I'm looking against left-handed pitching. The last 2 years, he's been having a BABIP of 472, 456, and this year he's at 276. So it could just be some poor luck.
Yeah, I like him here on FanDuel, only 4K. Draft, he's 10-8 over there. Nobody's going to play him at that price tag. I like him for tournaments a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one negative here. Last 2 years, hard contact rate, 52% and 48% against lefties. This year, 20%. That's a little alarming.
That is definitely alarming. I'm just not too worried about a guy like Christian Fedrick.
No, I agree. I definitely will have exposure to him in tournaments, but maybe not a guy for your cash games.
Yeah, Fedrick comes in with a 85.5% contact rate this year. Good spot to jump back on the Diamondbacks here. Segura back in the lineup. I'd love to see that after getting hit in the face with a fastball. Love to see him back there, and he pretty much picked up right where he left off.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're stacking them, if Michael Bourne's in that 2 spot, you got to give this guy a look.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't believe it's 2016, and I literally just said, yeah, you have to give Michael Bourne a look without even like thinking about it.
He's 2,200 on FanDuel.
Yeah, if he cracks the lineup, I don't know if he'll crack the lineup.
Yeah, that'd be interesting as well. Gosling's been getting this, the start. He's really cheap. Just if you get any of these cheap righties here up towards the top of the order, it's a great ballpark. It's definitely a spot you're going to want exposure to.
Yeah, you know who's actually been a tad hot lately, and it's a guy that no one will just ever roster because he doesn't have massive power upside. Chris Owings has hits in 3, 5, 7, 8 games in a row now. Some solid extra base hits along the way too, and he's only 7,600 and just a guy that no one's going to touch.
I don't know too much about running on a lefty for him, but he's a guy that has swipe bags too.
Yeah, definitely, and he's probably not a guy that's going to get double switched out too, just because of his position versatility.
Houston at LA, Michael Fiers against Matt Schumacher. Man, this guy coming off one of the best starts I've seen probably since what? It was 2014 where Schumacher had a really good year.
Yeah. I don't know. That should have been the first sign that the Baltimore Orioles were in a little bit of a funk when Schumacher got 12 strikeouts against them.
Yeah.
But, boy, another team that strikes out a ton, too, in Houston. Is this going to get trendy? Is this going to be like a trendy cheap play?
I hope not. Or actually, I hope so. I don't want any exposure to him.
Yeah, I don't think I do either.
We're getting the Houston bats on the road, 4 to 5 at bats from these guys against this guy. No,
yeah, you're definitely right. Especially because there's a guy that I'm gonna want to target. I mentioned him yesterday, and he homered again today too.
Schumacher, a guy 350 WOBA, 30% hard contact to righties. Then we look at his lefty numbers. The WOBA's down to 317, but he still allows a 31.5% hard contact rate to lefties. I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'll let you talk about the Houston guy you want to talk about.
Yeah, Luis Valbuena, homers now in 3 consecutive games. The 2-month cold streak is over. He is back, and he is looking really good. And you mentioned all the reasons why he's a good fit against Shoemaker. And he'll be in the lineup, and I might be picking him in a segment here in a minute.
Nice. I will not play a block to that segment, so I won't do that to you. Now, looking at the righties here, Carlos Correa, George Springer, Altuve is the one guy that I'm not too excited about. He just doesn't look like himself at the plate, but George Springer's starting to turn it up.
Talk about a guy I just never get right. This guy just never, ever seem to roster him on the days he does good. I roster him on the days when he grounds in the triple plays. This is the first home run he's had. Actually, he's only had 2 extra base hits, and now in 2 weeks. Might be a solid fade given the 2 home run game.
Yeah, I can get behind that, but the problem is I watched him tonight, and I've seen how he was swinging the bat, and it's going to be hard for me to fade him.
Yeah. Oh boy, yeah.
You know that eye test thing, like
I
you
trust
know,
me.
especially somebody that I've played baseball my whole life. So when I see somebody looking good at the plate, it's really hard for me to get off them.
Yeah, I might have to go back and watch that game. I can't say I've watched it. So
Correa, just want to mention Correa, shortstop eligible on FanDuel, infield for fantasy draft, but shortstop is so loaded. I just want to take some of these other guys instead of, Story and Crawford just to be different in tournaments.
Yeah, I don't mind that. That's not a bad call.
Michael Fire is a guy, he's so frustrating. Like, he's hard to get right, but the one thing he does do is he gives up a really high hard contact rate to righties. We have to like Mike Trout in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that.
Pujols, any interest in him?
I can't do it. There's not too many good first basemen on the slate to really go there for me.
One other name that I want to mention, 6K over on Fantasy Draft, Johnny Giovatella. If you've listened to the podcast over the last week and a half, I've talked about this guy almost every day, and he just continues to hit, and he's always under 10% owned. I'm going to continue to play him.
Yeah, I could see that.
Detroit at Oakland, Michael Fulmer and Sean Manaea. Man, we get a lefty against Detroit on a 14-game slate, and they're probably all going to be less than 15% owned.
You're making a pretty strong case here.
That's the first thing I noticed when I looked at the slate. Like, I always like looking at pitching matchups. It's the thing that I do. I've talked about on the podcast before. I look at pitching matchups 2, 3, 4 hours a day. I just spend a lot of time on pitchers because if you can figure out what pitchers are going to do, there's always a good chance you're going to be better off with your hitters as well. And when we look at Sean Manaea, and I might be pronouncing this name wrong, but when we look at his stats, it's a small sample size, but he sucks against righties, and he's going to face one of the best right-handed heavy teams in baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely can see the merits in this stack. I mean, I remember watching him against a right-handed heavy team in the Red Sox, and he wasn't fooling anybody that day. And I suspect he's not to be fooling many Tigers either. And there's a total of 8 in this game, which is really high for the Coliseum.
Now, Ian Kinsler's one name to note to pay attention to. It was illness. It's Friday. That was Tuesday and Wednesday. I think he'll be back in the lineup.
Yeah, I would think so, but you never know for sure.
Yeah, so pay attention to that. It's been a few days. We hope Kinsler's back in there. My favorite play in this game is not Miguel Cabrera. It's JD Martinez.
Yeah, I definitely with you on that. He had a really cold start, but ever since then, he's been hitting the ball hard and often.
And it's crazy because Miggy is 5 home runs in the last 6 games. You have to look at Miggy here as well. These guys are going to be under-owned. Take advantage of that. Like, it's a good stack. They're extremely hot. All of them are really good against left-handed pitching. It's just a good time to jump on the Tigers. Horrible ballpark. Great matchup.
Yeah, and with all the great ballparks out there, no one's going to touch this one.
James McCann, the other guy that I want to mention here, and if you've listened to the podcast, before, I love this guy against lefties. Injuries, at the beginning of the season, hadn't looked good. He has looked good lately, so I don't mind him in here in a tournament.
Yeah, and a guy no one's going to roster just given the price tag. Nick Castellanos, this guy's been doing much better against righties this year, but his whole career he's been a lefty masher.
Yep, I definitely agree. What's your thoughts here on Michael Fulmer? On a site like Draft where you have 2 pitchers or a site like FanDuel where the win is so important, I don't mind him here.
I hate playing strikeout pitchers in the Coliseum because that park just neutralizes them with a lot of pop-out fouls. So I think I'm just going to watch. I really can't see myself rostering him on this big of a slate.
Yeah, I disagree. We talked about this, I think, last week you were on the podcast with me and we talked about a strikeout pitcher in O.co. I get what you're saying, and I definitely agree with what you're saying. But it just, if he's going to get some pop outs or fly outs or foul ball outs, however you want to say it, he's going to pitch deeper into the game.
Yeah, I'm just not in love with this matchup. I just think there's other spots I'm going to want to target more. And I wonder if the box score Hawks are going to just pump them up just a little too high.
True. I can definitely see that. But when we're looking at Oakland, who are you afraid of?
Absolutely nobody.
Yeah, like Chris Davis is the one bat that could get to him here.
Yep.
Like when we're looking at Fulmer's numbers, it's small, and his xFIP is 277 and his ERA is 7.53 against righties. So it's suggesting there's going to be some positive regression coming for him. Like the numbers are saying that he's getting way unlucky, but you gotta consider like he's given up a massive hard contact rate and stuff. So if I had to take one back, it's Chris Davis. But honestly, I like Fulmer here.
Yeah, I understand it. I just don't want to get on the guy one start too late. Like this time to get on him was against Tampa. I don't know if I really want to get on him now, like a start later.
Any other thoughts before we get out of here?
No.
One other name that I want to mention is Cameron Maybin. Just continues to hit. I'm just going to leave it at that. This guy just hits everything right now.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Last game, and certainly not the least game, Minnesota at Seattle. Felix Hernandez and Pat Dean. See, when you're thinking of Felix Hernandez, you definitely have to consider him when he's at home. Kings Court for him just does something for him.
Yeah, and it's up against the Twins that strike out a lot. The Caves have returned the last two starts, 9-5. If he's going to start striking out 6-7 guys to start, then you're going to have to start considering him again.
What's your thoughts here on Pat Dean?
The greatest low ball play in the history of DFS, especially on a fantasy draft that the price was something obscene. 16-8. I'm sorry, 15-9.
Yeah, I can get behind that. My last cash game play, or I don't know if I would say he's a cash game play, but I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him on draft. It's Lee at 5,400 here against Dean.
Yeah,
I knew I was going to stop you with that one. I waited 14 games to mention that.
Oh, man. I played him last time out against the lefty, and it just didn't go well. But I do like the spot.
Like we're looking
awful. He's basically free.
We're looking at the stats, and 40 at bats against lefties this year. He has 3 home runs, which doesn't sound crazy, but when we're looking at the ISO numbers and stuff, a 225 ISO against lefties is not awful.
No, and that price of 5,400 on fantasy draft is where I would think I would have the most interest in him.
So I said over there on draft at 5,400, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him.
Oh, I thought I had my FanDuel page when you said that. And he was 2,100, so I assume that's what you had said.
No. Third and final, cheap play over on draft. Nelson Cruz, a lot of interest in Nelson Cruz here.
Yeah, it's Nelson Cruz against a lefty.
And he's hot. Like, what's better than Nelson Cruz being hot? Took a home run or a righty deep the other night, and then he gets a lefty here.
Having a game in course to lower his ownership.
Thank Course. Appreciate it. Any other bats you want to target here for the Mariners?
Seager and Cano will go underowned because it's a lefty, but both guys have shown that they can do damage against lefties, and Cano is heating up a little bit as well.
Any thoughts on Gutierrez here? Really cheap, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, he's a guy I'm just going to keep rostering against lefties. I missed the first home run and I was upset about it, but I didn't miss the second. He's in the majors to hit lefties, and he's not priced as a guy like that, so you have to roster him.
Any bats that you want to take here against Felix Hernandez?
Absolutely not.
That I feel like that's fair. The bats that we usually like here from Minnesota, Felix is really good against righties. He's just so good at home too. Like it's hard to recommend Sano, but you have to like his price tag over. If you're going to play him anywhere, play him at draft at 6,600.
6,600. Yeah, I guess.
And Park, 5,600. Man. Like, those are the two usual suspects for Minnesota, and they're both really cheap.
Yeah, it's just that Felix just so good against righties. If there was a lefty hit power guy, I think I'd be fine with that. But I think on a 14-game slate, you can find a better spot than these guys.
I don't disagree. The more I think about it, I don't disagree. I definitely agree. Like, I would definitely save the money and play Lee over both those guys.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, that's going to wrap it up here for the 14-game slate. Let's play some home run derby. Neither one of us got a home run on Thursday night, so we got to bounce back with some home runs here, CJ.
Yeah, I meant to listen to the podcast before. I didn't think any of my guys had homered, so
No.
That's what I get for not taking my boy Luis Valbuena. Not making that mistake again.
All right, well, I'll let you lead it off.
Luis Valbuena.
Like, you knew I wasn't going to take him, and you still took him in your first pick. I like the boldness.
If you say you think the guy's going to homer 3 times during the podcast, you better lead off with him.
I'm going to go JD Martinez here at O.co.
All right, sounds good. We don't do cores, so let's scroll away.
Yeah, we're going to skip cores.
We skip cores. We don't do that.
Bunch of bats and cores.
No, that's no fun for anybody. I'm going to take Starlin Marte against the lefty.
I do like that call. I'm going to take the beef. Beef Wellington Castillo.
Yeah, I'm going to take Paul Goldschmidt. I'm going to go a little chalky with my last one.
I don't know if that's chalky. He's hitting 240 this year, and nobody's playing him right now.
Yeah, I did actually. I did just read off all these bad stats against the lefties, and then I took them.
Yeah, so
instant regret.
Instant regret. I'm actually going to go really contrarian with my last one and steal somebody that you actually liked a lot, and that's Freddie Freeman.
Man, that's a great pick.
Right? That's just, right back at you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
all right.
Great pick.
If you had to pick one pitcher at the end of the day, I'm not going to roll out anybody on this slate, even though I should. Well, I'm going to roll out Scherzer. If you had to pick one pitcher not named Max Scherzer, we both feel like he's going to pick up a win here. Who would it be?
It's a lot tougher when you can't play Scherzer. It's probably Robbie Ray.
I like that call. I don't hate that call. You went a little crazy. I'm going a little crazy, and I'm going Michael Fulmer.
Yeah, I almost took him, but I felt like that's really where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, this feels like the John Gray situation from yesterday where I initially was like, no. And as the day goes on, I do more and more research, and I warm up more and more to the guy. So I could definitely see myself being on Fulmer by lock if I guess I could see this. I'm kind of warming up to him a little bit.
I'm glad you warmed up on John Gray on Thursday.
It was a really good spot. You were definitely right about that.
He is I still think he's a year away from being like an ace, but he has the skill to be one if he can work out some kinks.
Yeah, absolutely. And his pitch types are the type of stuff Red Sox struggle against too.
Yep. All right. That's going to wrap it up here for us on this Friday. I'll be back on Memorial Day. There's an interesting slate, so I'll be back on Memorial Day. I don't know who my co-host is going to be for that yet, but we'll be back on Monday with the Morning Grind. If you haven't checked out fantasydraft.com, make sure you guys go over there, check them out. They got their $15,000 home run on Friday, so check that out. It's a great tournament. If I don't win, if CJ doesn't win, we hope one of you guys take it down with the picks that we recommended and you guys blow up our Twitters. That's just because touts like to be touted. I'm kidding, of course. Make sure you guys check out Fantasy Draft. Use promo code GRINDERS. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year for Fantasy Draft. And you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, CJ?
No, absolutely. Actually, I'll put it on the podcast. You can send me all the home run derby picks, and I'll update them for you.
I do need to do that. I'm going to send you pictures. I have a spreadsheet, so I do need to get to that. Next week, we're going to do some cool stuff with Fantasy Draft. Me and Hoop talked about the hats and some swag, and we're actually going to do some fun stuff with the home run derby. Still working out the kinks with that type of promo, but so make sure you guys pay attention to that. Good luck. Hope everyone has a happy Memorial Day weekend, and thank you to all the veterans that listen to this podcast. We surely do appreciate everything you've done for our country. For that being said, it's Friday. Good luck, and we'll see you on Monday.